Welcome to the video. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to be talking about the Mpc Sample and the Mpc ONE. I've noticed that some people are in between these machines. I'm going to talk about it a little bit and give you my opinion between these two machines. Of course, man, if you know me, you know that I prefer the Mpc ONE, but you might actually just need this to make beats, and it's portable. So one of the reasons I feel like this could be the one for you is that some people do that sort of workflow where it's just, designing a bit of an idea on your MPC, which one, whatever, and then just bring that into the DAW and finish the beat in the DAW. So for that, I feel like this could be it. If you're just sketching out an idea, and if you're just using samples, if you're not going into plugins or anything like that, this possibly could be it. It's very portable, very simple to navigate. But me, I'm just one guy that comes into MPCs and loves the whole thing, the whole tracks, the whole sequences with different mutes per sequence. I love that entire workflow of an MPC. This to me is something that complements the MPC. This is something that goes outside. Not really an MPC. For me, this is the same way that they called the Force the Akai Force. This should have been the Akai Sample. I feel like it resembles an MPC in a way, but it's definitely not an MPC. I feel like the Akai Force resembles more an MPC than this. You don't got mutes per sequence. You don't have the transport controls, record. You don't have a lot of stuff in here. The chopping on here is different. The resampling is different. You don't have effects per pad. The effects are, it works in a different way. I mean, so much stuff in this that is not an MPC at all. It's a workflow it has a lot of limitations. A lot of people love that. It sparks creativity and all of that. I like working with it as well. I like the results that I get out of it, but I wouldn't necessarily trade it for an Mpc ONE or any of the other ones. If you're looking at the two, because the price point this is the MPC with the closest price point to that of the Mpc Sample. I would always go for a full-blown MPC. Best would be to have both, because you can, travel around, sketch your ideas, bring it into your MPCs, finish the product right here. You can just open one of these projects here. Vice versa, you can export your programs from the MPC into the Mpc Sample. So I think they complement each other rather than just picking one. Of course, people are asking the question as well, like, this one doesn't have MPC pads, that one doesn't have MPC pads. There's no step sequencer. So it seems to be very close to one another from an MPC perspective. Again, I would say the same thing. It's not really an MPC. It is a different workflow. And I've always said that it's great to have multiple samplers so you can work in different ways, experience sequencing in a different way, experience chopping and all of that in a different way. Having different samplers will always trigger different ideas depending on their workflow. So, it's definitely, it feels like it's close to one another, but they're different samplers. And in that light, I would look at it as a different sampler, not really an MPC. The workflow is very limited, but it's very fast. It's super quick. You don't have to be jumping between menus. But that also is one of the things of the Mpc Sample that, for me, is too limiting. If you know me, I love samplers that are deep, that you can go deep and just do sound design, crazy stuff on them. I appreciate the limitations as well, but for me, it's a bit too limiting. Although I do like it, I feel like it's too limiting. I feel like you should have had tracks, or I don't even care so much about the tracks, all right? But mutes per sequence, it would be a great thing. I love the workflow of having overdub and record options. It's something that's not here. Sometimes it kind of trips me a little bit. The workflow is nice and you get used to it super quick and you'll love it. It's a wonderful sampler. But I will always prefer the full-blown MPC workflow. This is an MPC. This is the real workflow. Even though we don't get the programs that we can change per track anymore, that would be the real Mpc workflow. Some people could even say, no, look, I got an Mpc ONE already. Do I need to buy this or should I go for that one? I think I would go for this because, MPC One, it depends on the work that you're doing. Some people won't even upgrade past 2.15. So, I don't even would look at the Mpc One. I would just go into the Mpc Sample. If you like to stay in the updates, if you, looking towards the future, maybe I would still go for the Sample because the updates are still going to go into the old MPCs. But at a certain point, of course, this is going to be the older MPCs are not going to get any more updates at a certain point. I'm sure it's going to take some time, so I would go for this. And again, I feel like one complements the other. I'm actually excited to see what's going to come out with we're on 3.9 right now. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen at 4.0. So that's one of the updates. I feel like the arrangement view is going to fully come into light. I feel like all that clip workflow is going to pop out as well. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff in that. The MPC pads are going to be better as well. I'm really hoping to see the updates of 4.0. I don't know when that's going to come, but I'm sure it's going to be really, really great. And on this, I'm waiting for an update from Akai. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here that I feel like the machine is actually pretty complete as it is. I mean, is meant to be like a very light version of an MPC, and I feel like it's almost there already, but it does need a few updates. We haven't seen updates from it in a few months, but I'm sure they're working on it, and I'm hoping to see some more updates on this as well. It's always exciting to buy into Akai because of that, because they're always updating their instruments. So I'm really excited to see what's going to come out for this, actually. One of the drawbacks on this is when you want to get into actual groove, into the actual nudging of notes and all of that, it kind of falls behind a little bit. I wish they could have thought a bit better about it. But again, it's just, sometimes I just use the offset to nudge things. But I wish it could be a bit better on that. And I'm a huge nerd when it comes to nudging and just creating groove by shifting notes and nudging stuff. You don't actually have, well, you have a nudge in here, but I don't think it's that well built. While here you have a screen that you can grab notes and nudge notes around. Much easier to make beats on this, 100%. But you get overwhelmed by the power of the machine. Some people will get overwhelmed by it. Me working with an MPC for almost 30 years now, pretty much I'm at home, so I don't get overwhelmed by it. But a lot of people will get overwhelmed by it. In here, everything's super simple. But that simplicity, for me, sometimes is just too simple. I love limitations, not that much. But yeah, man, here, of course, you got your portability, you got your skip back, so it's always listening. There's a buffer, audio buffer inside of the machine that's always listening to everything that you're doing, so you can resample that way through the machine. At the same time, the resample really sucks on this. The actual resample, I really dislike that. But I'm sure some people will love it. Sometimes you trip a little bit on the effects because you have to go into the screen of the effects. You lose the touch of the pads of the samples. It's kind of a different workflow, but you get that portability, which is great. You get the 16 levels. You get a little bit of a chop function, which I don't really like that much, but you can extract chops from the chop window into new pads. You can copy pads around. You can, again, working with effects on this is not that great because you don't have effects per pad. You have to send an effect and resample it, which resample sucks. But you got to use the recall. I would use the recall function on this. But it's great. I mean, the look of it looks great. Compared to this, I feel like the design on here is a bit better. You got a tiny little screen. I do prefer not to have a touch screen, but just the controls on it sometimes fails a little bit when it comes to the groove and all of that. I would rather have a screen like this so I can grab notes and nudge them around. The tactile buttons are really cool. I really like this sort of buttons on an MPC. On the Mpc One, actually very similar. You got your note repeats, your arrays, similar. Then you have to go into, You have to go into some of these old school screens like the step edit to edit things instead of having a grid view, which would just make a lot more sense in 2026. But it's the way they've built it. Again, I feel it makes a lot of sense if you're one of these guys that uses DAWs to make beats and just uses your MPC to produce some of the ideas, but then pushes them out into the DAW and finishes the beat on the DAW and uses the effects in the DAW and all of that stuff. Then this would make some sense. It would make a lot of sense to have this if you just want to really chop a little bit and try sampling a little bit. That's it. Now, if you're a guy like me that does everything inside of the MPC, Mpc ONE, I'm talking about the MPC, but this kind of applies to all the others. If you're one of the guys that does everything in here, then it makes more sense to, this is the MPC to go. If you can really do a lot in here. You can make full tracks. You can make full tracks there, but let's not compare apples with oranges. In this case, apples with tangerines. And if you're just, kind of getting into sampling, but you're still working with your DAW, then it makes sense to grab this. This can connect via USB-C to your DAW, and you can, I think, send audio through it. So it's going to be like a good workflow if you're in your DAW, but you want to get into an MPC sampler. If you want to make entire beats inside of your MPC, go for this. That's my take. That's what I would say. But at the end of the day, buy both. This is great for Akai, yeah? The thing about this is that they didn't even add any step sequencing or MPC pads, so you're kind of losing that. But I see a great option here of, Mpc ONE buying these two because they're both new generation, so there's a lot of updates coming for these machines. And you get the home MPC and you get a portable MPC. Instead of buying the MPC live, right? It's actually a good combination. And you get two MPCs. Well, sometimes that is the question, right? Like, do I buy an MPC Live 3 where I get all things of an MPC, of the new MPCs, or do I buy these two, right? That is a good question because it might be like a good combination of having this sit at home in the studio where you can do full tracks on this. And then having this just to take outside. You get two MPCs instead of buying an MPC Live 3, which is, and you get two different workflows at the same time. So ideas. If you're asking me which one do you buy, there's that question. Are you using your DAW? If you're using your DAW, maybe if you just want to, do some quick sampling, this is it. But if you're full blown, you want to get just on the MPC, this is the way to go. You can make full entire beat tapes on this. You got compressors, all of that stuff in here per pad, per track, sub mixes, returns. You got all of that good stuff from a DAW inside of this little square MPC Live 3 XL, all of that. Great little sampler. It will never, for me, replace the Mpc ONE unless they come out with updates that actually give me some of that MPC workflow of mutes per sequence, of effects per pad, of a good grid view. Stuff like that would make me just jump just on this. But as of now, I love working with it, but it's definitely far from being my sampler that I work on a daily basis. That was the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you got any questions, write them down below. Subscribe and all that stuff. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.